So we all have this idea that if we just put in enough time into something, that eventually we'll become really good at it. And while I think this is true to a certain extent, we've all seen plenty of people who put in the hours but never seem to improve. And then there's the others who seem to have some special secret that allows them to improve so much faster than the rest. So what separates these two groups of people? In this video, I'm going to share the answer to that question and the single most important thing that I've learned over the years that has helped me become a better climber. Hey guys, welcome back. So this is a topic that I've been thinking about for quite some time now, and it's a video that I've been wanting to make. It's an aspect of climbing that I think doesn't get talked about quite enough. Throughout my last 6 years of climbing, I've hit several plateaus where no matter how many hours I put in, it just doesn't seem like I'm getting any better. And I think this is something that a lot of climbers can relate with. I mean, just browsing the Reddit forums, a lot of people seem to hit these plateaus, and it kind of prompted me to do some research. So one of the books I came across in my research was the book Outliers. And this book basically says that in order to become a world-class expert at something, you need to put in roughly 10,000 hours of work. So this is kind of in line with our thinking that, you know, if you're just consistent and you put in the hours, that eventually you'll just become really good at it. And the problem with this study is that there are people who've put in 10,000 hours and have not become world-class at something. So there were some follow-up studies to kind of take a look at what really differentiates these top level performers from their peers. And what they found was that even though the two groups roughly put in the same number of hours each week, the top performers consistently engaged in what's called deliberate practice. And I think I will make a video specifically on deliberate practice. I want to talk about specifically how it applies to climbing. Anyway, so the top performers, they are able to pick one thing that they wanted to work on every single session and focus their attention 100% on improving just that one thing, while the rest were more passive in their approach to practice. So, you know, there were some things that they wanted to work on, but more or less they were just going through the motions, even though they were putting in the same number of hours. So it's kind of easy to see how this shows up in a normal climbing gym, right? So you have your average climber who maybe just goes to the gym to have fun, right? And they'll maybe hop on a climb, they'll fall off. They won't really think about why they fell off. They might just go on their phones, browse Instagram, maybe chat with their friends. And mostly they're just there to have fun. They'll hop back on the same climb again, they'll just fall again at the exact same spot. If you compare this to climber B, who's a little bit more deliberate and focused in their approach to practice, you know, they might go on a climb. If they fall, they'll ask questions and be very precise and deliberate about how they practice. So even though both groups can be very dedicated climbers, you know, they put in the hours, the climber that actually puts in focused attention into their practice is going to be improving at a much faster pace than your average climber who is just there to have fun. Now this may sound simple, but it's actually quite hard to do. I mean, we all have the intention of wanting to focus and becoming better climbers, and we go to the gym with a certain intention that we want to improve, but you know, once we get there, there's always distractions. If you're climbing with friends, it's easy to kind of just get lost and end up wasting time at the gym. So I think that the most important skill to actually work on is focus. And focus is a skill that'll help you regardless of what you want to do. And especially in this day and age when there's just constant distractions, constant sources of instant gratification, it's really hard to stay focused on any one thing for extended periods of time. So being able to train that focus, I think, will be a skill that'll help no matter what you decide to do. So now I want to share a few tips that I found really helpful in bringing more focus and more attention into my own climbing sessions. So tip number one is to climb alone. So I mean, I love climbing with friends and I think it's important to have fun, but if you really want to focus, what worked for me was to have a couple sessions a week where I just go by myself. Climbing by myself lets me really zone in without any distractions, because when you climb with friends, it's easy to just go along with whatever they want to do. If they find a cool boulder problem, it's very tempting to just drop whatever you want to work on for the session and just be like, hey, let's go hop on this really cool boulder. And while that may be fun, what I found, at least for me, was that the majority of those sessions, I don't actually end up learning anything and I don't actually end up working on anything. So again, I think it's important to have sessions where you're actually having fun with your friends, but just mix in a couple sessions where you're able to just go by yourself and really just work on improving some small aspect of your climbing. And even if you're a top roper or a lead climber, I think this could also be helpful. Like, just have a session once in a while where you just go to a bouldering wall and actually just work on something by yourself. Tip number 2 is to focus on getting better at one single thing, one single technique every single session. It doesn't have to be the entire session. This is something that you can kind of progressively get better at. You don't have to know exactly what this one thing is at the beginning of your session. This is kind of just to be able to slowly train your focus. So what you can do is you can go to the climbing gym and you can hop on a climb that is at or near your limit, and you just start climbing until you find a move. And this is where you really have to focus, because if you're not focused, you don't know what you need to work on. So you hop on the boulder and you find a move that maybe feels slightly awkward, or I mean, if you fall off, obviously it's something that you need to work on. But even if you're able to complete the climb, if you really pay attention to how your body feels between certain movements, you can always find something that you can improve on for that climb. So an example of this would be, you know, if you're on a climb and you're going for a move, and as soon as you reach the hold, your body starts swinging out like crazy. You know, you can figure out how maybe you can reach that hold while feeling a little bit more secure. You know, maybe it's your body positioning, maybe it's where your foot is positioned, and just work on that until you feel comfortable with that move. And I guarantee you that if you just work on one thing every single session, you're going to be surprised how quickly you notice the improvements. Tip number 3 is to practice recording yourself. This one was actually a pretty big game changer for me. So recording yourself actually forces you to kind of focus when you climb, because you know that you have something to watch, so that you're not just going off and being distracted or going on your phone. So you actually go back and review and watch what you're doing. And the second benefit of recording is actually when we climb, we don't actually know how we look when we climb. And I think initially you're gonna be very, very surprised how differently you actually look on the wall versus how you think you look in your mind. And just having this feedback, I think sometimes there'll be things that are just super obvious that you missed, that you wouldn't have noticed if you didn't record yourself, right? Because you think your feet is in a certain position, you think your body is in a certain position, but you know, when you're on a climb, you're focused on so many other things that you don't actually remember what you did when you fell off. So having the recording, being able to go back and look at it is extremely helpful. Number 4 is kind of a slightly more abstract one, and it's something that I'll probably make a video about in the future, which is meditation. Meditation has helped me in just countless ways in life, but I think specifically when it comes to focus, it trains a part of your brain and attention that allows you to let distractions kind of come and go. And you know, when you're practicing meditation, especially mindfulness practice, you're continually bringing yourself back from distractions, right? And at the end of the day, that is actually what focus is about. So you know, you can't control exactly what your brain is doing, but if you're able to catch yourself when you're being distracted and bring yourself back into your primary focus, it helps you in ways that you can't even imagine. So I highly recommend picking up some form of meditation practice. And again, I'll probably make a more in-depth video about this in the future. I think this is sort of an introduction into what I want to be focusing on a lot in this channel, which is sort of the mental game when it comes to training. You know, there's plenty of videos out there that teach you how to do certain techniques, how to build strength, but I think there's not quite enough videos out there that really focus on how you should approach sessions, especially when it comes to things like attention focus, deliberate practice. If you want to see a session where I kind of put this into practice, where I kind of record myself and go through and really focus on tiny improvements, you can check out my video of the kilter board. It's a little bit long, but it kind of gets the point across, and I think I'll probably format it a little bit better in the future. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.